Hello everyone, and welcome to History of the Ancient World. Today we're marching back in time, not to visit kings or philosophers, but to stand shoulder to shoulder with the most fearsome fighting forces of antiquity. From the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt to the misty forests of Germania, we're going to uncover the stories, strategies, and steel of ancient warriors. What made the Roman legionaries so dominant? How did a small force of Spartans hold off a massive empire? And what secrets were forged into the blades of the Celts? Grab your shield and sharpen your wits, because we're about to charge headfirst into the epic history of ancient warfare. This isn't just about battles and bloodshed. It's about the discipline, innovation, and raw courage that shaped empires and defined entire civilizations. So, let's begin our journey. Our first stop is ancient Egypt, the land of pharaohs and pyramids. For much of its early history, Egypt was relatively isolated, protected by vast deserts. Their military was primarily focused on defense and internal control. The typical Egyptian soldier was a conscript, armed with a simple spear, a wooden shield covered in animal hide, and a sickle sword known as a khopesh. But everything changed with the arrival of the Hyksos, invaders from Western Asia, around 1650 BC. The Hyksos brought with them revolutionary military technology, the horse-drawn chariot. This was a game changer. Suddenly, the Egyptian infantry was outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The shock of this defeat spurred one of the greatest military transformations in ancient history. During the New Kingdom, pharaohs like Thutmose III and Rameses II didn't just adopt the chariot, they perfected it. The Egyptian chariot was a masterpiece of engineering, light, fast, and agile. It became the centerpiece of their new army, a mobile missile platform carrying an archer and a driver. These chariot corps would soften up enemy formations with waves of arrows before the infantry moved in to finish the job. Rameses II famously used his chariot divisions to snatch a tactical victory from the jaws of defeat at the Battle of Kadesh. The Egyptians learned a hard lesson. To survive, you must adapt. Their new modern army wasn't just for defense anymore, it was a tool for empire building, projecting Egyptian power far into the Levant and Nubia. Now let's journey across the Mediterranean to Greece, a land of rugged mountains and fiercely independent city-states. Here, warfare evolved in a completely different direction. Instead of mobile chariots, the Greeks perfected heavy infantry, the hoplite. The hoplite was a citizen soldier, not a professional. He was a farmer, a potter, or a stonemason who, when called upon, would take up his arms to defend his polis or city-state. His gear was his own investment, a symbol of his status and commitment. It consisted of a bronze helmet, a breastplate, and greaves for his shins. But his most important pieces of equipment were a large round shield called an aspis or hoplon and a long thrusting spear. The hoplites fought in a formation called the phalanx. This was a dense block of soldiers several ranks deep. Each man's shield protected not only himself but also the man to his left. It was a wall of bronze and wood, bristling with spear points. The success of the phalanx depended on absolute discipline and cohesion. It was a shoving match, a brutal contest of will and endurance. The goal was to break the enemy's formation, causing a rout. The Battle of Marathon, where Athenian hoplites defeated a much larger Persian force, is a testament to the phalanx's effectiveness. But the ultimate expression of hoplite warfare came from one city-state in particular, Sparta. The Spartans took the hoplite ideal and turned it into a way of life, creating the most disciplined and feared soldiers of the ancient Greek world. The name Sparta echoes through history as the pinnacle of military dedication. From the age of 7, every Spartan male was entered into the Agoge, a brutal state-sponsored training program designed to forge them into perfect soldiers. Life was a constant test of endurance, pain tolerance, and obedience. They were taught to steal food to survive and punished not for stealing, but for getting caught. This system created warriors who were physically tough, mentally resilient, and completely devoted to the state. The Spartan hoplite was the master of the phalanx. Their red cloaks and long hair were designed to intimidate, and their reputation often won battles before they even began. The most legendary Spartan stand was, of course, at the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC. Here, a small force of about 300 Spartans, led by King Leonidas, along with a few thousand other Greeks, held a narrow mountain pass against the enormous Persian army of King Xerxes. For days, they repelled wave after wave of attacks. The Persians, with their light armor and wicker shields, were no match for the bronze wall of the Greek phalanx in that confined space. While ultimately a tactical defeat, Thermopylae became a symbol of courage against impossible odds. It inspired the Greek city-states to unite and eventually drive the Persians out of Greece. Sparta showed the world that it's not the size of the army that matters, but the strength and spirit of its warriors. As the Greek city-states waned, a new power was rising in the west, Rome. The Romans were the ultimate military engineers of the ancient world. They didn't just win battles, they built an empire that lasted for 1,000 years, and they did it on the backs of their legendary legions. The Roman legionary was a professional soldier, a Roman citizen who signed up for a 25-year term of service. He was highly trained, incredibly disciplined, and superbly equipped. His gear included the iconic lorica segmentata, a cuirass of metal strips, a large rectangular shield called a scutum, a short sword called the gladius, and 2 throwing spears, known as pila. The Roman legion was a marvel of organization. It was a self-contained army of about 5,000 men, divided into smaller, more flexible units called cohorts and centuries. This modular structure gave Roman commanders incredible tactical flexibility on the battlefield, something the rigid Greek phalanx lacked. The standard Roman tactic was devastatingly effective. The legionaries would advance, hurl their pila to disrupt the enemy's charge and break their shields, and then draw their gladius for close quarters combat. The scutum provided excellent protection, while the short gladius was a brutally efficient stabbing weapon in the crush of a melee. But the legionaries were more than just fighters. They were builders. Wherever they went, they built fortified camps, roads, bridges, and aqueducts, literally paving the way for Roman civilization to follow. From the disciplined hoplites to the professional legionaries, we see a trend towards state-controlled, organized armies. But not all ancient warriors fit this mold. Let's travel north to the forests and marshes of Europe to meet the Celtic and Germanic tribes. Often dismissed by the Romans as barbarians, these warriors were ferocious, brave, and highly skilled in their own right. Unlike the uniformed armies of the Mediterranean, tribal warriors were defined by their individualism and warrior ethos. A man's status was determined by his prowess in battle and his loyalty to his chieftain. Celtic warriors were famous for their long iron swords and their use of chariots in battle, a tradition that had long since died out in the Mediterranean. They were also known for their intimidating appearance, with many warriors fighting with spiked hair, elaborate tattoos, and sometimes with nothing on at all to show their fearless contempt for death. The initial charge of a Celtic warband was a terrifying experience, a wave of screaming, sword-wielding warriors seeking individual glory. Germanic warriors were similarly fierce, often fighting in a wedge formation called the boar's head to smash through enemy lines. Their preferred weapons were the spear and a single-edged knife called a scramasax. While they lacked the formal discipline of the legions, their ferocity and knowledge of their forested homeland made them a persistent and dangerous foe for Rome. In 9 AD, at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, a coalition of Germanic tribes led by Arminius ambushed and annihilated 3 entire Roman legions, a catastrophic defeat that halted Rome's expansion into Germania forever. These tribal warriors proved that organization and equipment weren't everything. Passion, knowledge of the terrain, and a fierce fighting spirit could be just as deadly. The ancient world was a crucible of conflict, forging warriors and warfare into countless different forms. From the chariot archers of Egypt who mastered speed and distance, to the Spartan hoplites who embodied discipline and sacrifice, from the Roman legionaries who engineered an empire with their swords and shovels, to the Celtic and Germanic warriors whose untamed ferocity checked the advance of that very empire. Each of these fighting forces tells us something unique about the society that created them, their values, their technology, and their will to survive. Their legacy isn't just in the battles they won or lost, but in the way they shaped the course of human history. The strategies pioneered in these ancient conflicts are still studied in military academies today, and the courage of these warriors continues to inspire us. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through the battlefields of the ancient world. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. What ancient warrior do you find the most impressive? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to History of the Ancient World for more deep dives into our incredible past. We'll see you in the next one.